Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's virtual education program at Cancer Support Community South Bay. I'm Rebecca, the program manager, and I welcome you to this workshop titled Thrivership Community Workshop. Before we begin, if this is your first time joining us, CNC South Bay's mission is to uplift and strengthen people impacted by cancer by providing support, fostering compassionate communities, and breaking down barriers to care. Our vision is that everyone impacted by cancer receives the support they want and need throughout their experience. We serve the South Bay, Long Beach, and Orange County area all at no cost. Our program includes support groups, networking groups, healthy lifestyle classes, social activities, and educational programs like this workshop. Educational programs are open to all. If you'd like to hear more about our services or join our community, please visit our website at cscsouthbay.org. Before I introduce today's speaker, we ask you to keep your microphone muted to eliminate any distracting background noise. Please feel free to enter any questions into the chat function found at the bottom of the Zoom window at any time. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our workshop speaker. As a survivor of cancer, autoimmunity, and neurodivergence to Thriver, Ghazal has transformed her journey through chronic illness into a purposeful healing path. By combining holistic remedies, she broke free from survival mode and now guides others to become the creators of their life. As a somatic transformation facilitator and well-being coach, she supports others through life's deepest transitions with conscious presence, embodied healing, and compassionate care. Born from her own personal experiences, she created Thrivership, a movement and methodology that helps people turn their pain into power and power into purpose. For this transformation to take place, she embodies three core values: self-resourcing, self-advocacy, and self-empowerment. Today, Ghazal lives a healthy, vibrant life beyond what doctors once believed possible, alongside her devoted husband, her cockapoo companion, and her miracle baby. Thank you so much, Ghazal, for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to be here and have the space to have these deep and meaningful conversations. It's going to be an hour and a half of just a journey that we're going to go along side by side. I'm just going to think of me as a tour guide on this journey. This is all about you, and I hope that with whatever you take from this, you will be able to leave knowing that in any transition of your life, you can thrive in all sorts of adversities and challenges. So thank you again for having me and for this wonderful space to be in. So I do see one person, two people coming on camera. If I could encourage, no pressure. If you'd like to be on camera, let me know. If you don't, that's fine. Just keeps the interaction going. So feel free to use the chat if you are off camera. All right, so welcome aboard on the Thrivership journey. This is a journey inspired through my personal survivorship journey. I'm a 3-time cancer survivor, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Through my timeline, this is really a inner strength program that I put together that I was inspired through surviving many different adversities in my life. And as we saw in the first slide, this is about these transitional moments through the adverse moments of our lives to create a better life for ourselves. So I really embody and hope that we can embody that together, that in these challenging times, there can be a creation for something even more. So what Thrivership is really about, it's really like what Rebecca was mentioning about the internal self-resourcing. So first, the how, like how do I tap into all of this? It's within yourself. So everything we talk about, it's in a holistic manner. It's also going to be a lot to do with the internal world, what's going on inside of our own beings, our own souls, our own bodies, our minds, to really get the answers that we aspire to have. This is more, I don't know if you've watched The Matrix, it's kind of like the red pill, blue pill type of metaphor where, you know, we want just the pill to get better, and this is kind of the opposite of that. So we you get to create your own blueprint of your own magical pill that you get to take on a daily basis, and hopefully it'll help you throughout other challenges in life as well beyond cancer. Also, the second biggest value is the self-advocacy part. So being able to know what one wants. So the what is here that's emphasized is not only can you be resourceful, but you can be whole. And so feeling this wholeness within our bodies and within our minds and within our souls, we can be able to speak up for what it is that we want and know which direction we're going in because of that resourcefulness that we will embody together. And also the last piece of this, of course, is the self-empowerment. So again, advocating for that word self 3 times here. So not only we're self-resourcing, we're self-advocating, but yet we're also going to self-empower our own selves so that we can essentially go on out into the world and heal contagiously, which is my goal with what I've created here. So you are resourceful, you are whole, and you are complete in every step of this way. And so as you see over here on the left corner, the Thrivership system is really essentially just talking about the systematic world that we live in. We have a system for everything. We have a medical system, we have financial systems, and it goes on and on. And so really taking the word system, but really embodying the fact that we can recycle our pain into power, recycle that power into purpose, and hopefully have a meaning of peace in our lives, despite all sorts of adverse pain that we go through. It is not possible to go through life without pain. I've tried. So really it's about having the grace and compassion for ourselves to swiftly go through this life together. Oops, sorry, went backwards. Okay, so just want to get a weather forecast check with everyone. So if you don't mind, maybe pop it into the chat. If you can let me know how you're emotionally, physically, and mentally checking in. If you want, you can separate it into 3 categories. So emotionally, you might be partially cloudy with a bit of sun coming out, or maybe mentally you're feeling like there's thunder, lightning bolts going off with all these thoughts and things going on in life. So just pop in the chat. Physically, how are you checking in? If you had a weather forecast. Mentally, how are you checking in? And then emotionally. And I'll just start to kind of name them so that we kind of get it.
Tired.
Okay, thank you. Tired. So, Sienna, what would you say that weather forecast would be for tired? How does that feel in the body or in the mind?
Depleted. So physically, I feel depleted.
Thank you for sharing.
Another comment, emotionally cloudy with some sun, and then also drained mentally. Yeah. Maybe some gray, dark skies, possibly. Physically raining. Okay.
Physically raining. Thank you. Thank you. Sometimes when we put it into a form that we are more familiar with, our bodies can get into the zone a little bit more softer and be more curious as to how your body and mind and emotional state is showing up.
We have a few more comments. The drain mentally with lightning and downpours, and then emotional, partly cloudy, mentally windy, physically a little tired.
Thank you. Yeah, so we got some clouds out there for sure, causing some of these emotions coming up. Thank you for everyone for checking in, and I'm gonna go ahead. If you'd like to pop in throughout the session, if your weather forecast has changed in any sense, please feel free to pop into the chat and we'll kind of check in with that too. Okay. So just to introduce myself briefly, Hello, my name is Ghazal. I am your facilitator for today. I'm the founder of Contagiously Healing, the Body, Mind, Self. I'm a holistic health advocate leader. I am a well-being and transformation coach through the body, mind, and self, so all three components. And trauma-informed somatics facilitation is how I move people through this. I am also an NLP practitioner, which I add in some yoga and breathwork instructions within that as well to really help you embody all of this transformation. So I'm happy to be here. I'm a forever student and teacher of life, so I'm here to learn as much as you guys are here to also learn. Just a few housekeeping before we get started. I just want to let everyone know that there's no agenda for today. Absolutely just stay curious. That's the only agenda I would say is required, is become curious of yourself, become curious of others, and stay in this curious, childlike headspace. There is no judgment. So again, not towards the self and not towards others. So again, we're keeping this space open. We're not broken. We're not here to be fixed. This is really solely just a growth and empowerment, self-awareness workshop. And to also disclaim, this isn't to replace any medical or therapy interventions. This is solely just here to build community and hopefully be able to move through this together as one. And then last but not least, please just respect this is a confidential space, just so whatever stays here, we're going to keep it in this little sacred bubble. Everyone's story is valid and everyone's voice matters. So please take what you need and leave the rest if it doesn't resonate, and we will have a good time. All right, so moving on to why Thrivership. So there's obviously a term that we probably are familiar with, which is survivorship. This is my personal survivorship journey, and we'll dive into yours as well. Wherever you are in your journey, whether you are in treatment, remission, survivorship, whether you've been a caregiver, we all have a survivorship journey. So regardless of what that looks like, we live in some kind of survival mode. We are meant to be as beings in the survival mode. So our limbic brain system has been built through evolution over and over again to look out for danger, look out for pain, look out to make sure that you are safe. It is protecting you in all ways, shapes, and forms. However, it does impact our nervous system very greatly. In somatic works, we do talk and move through our nervous system in a more swiftful way and try to create balance within our ventral state, which is the middle window of tolerance of how much resilience we can have moving back and forth through these oscillations and pendulations of life. So looking at, for example, my timeline here, I know that there was a moment where I thought to myself, what am I in life doing? What is happening and what is causing the cyclical pattern that's causing one sickness after the other? And so this is really the survivorship mentality that I had kept very close to me, and it had become an identity, which we will talk about in a second. So anytime you have any questions or any comments, please just put into the chat, and we'll address them as we go by. So as we talked about with the survivorship journey, there is this feeling of being lonely, stuck, and lost. Typically, when we look at this puzzle on the right-hand side, there's these words and diagnoses that kind of come our way and can put a footprint that's a little bit harder to rub off. So whether that's an illness, disability, disease, dysfunction, disorder, a survivor, as it was for my sense, from the age of 5, I took in that identity. I became a survivor, and so therefore I kept surviving my whole entire life. And that kind of made me feel these three key points. I'm not sure if you got the worksheet, but on the worksheet, if you didn't, totally okay, you can do this at another time. There's the example of what my narrative is versus, and then also your narrative. So you have an opportunity to fill out what your survivorship story is. Lost my mouse. There we go. And so here we want to just stop at this point and kind of talk about the chain of events. So what really happens as we tap into this identity, and then it becomes this these outcomes of our lives? Well, I really love to talk about the fact that we are human beings. So emphasizing on the being part and not the doing. So we are first beings before we can do anything. And how do we tap into our being is our identity. It's at our core. So who we are and what we believe, what we think about, how we feel, the actions we take are the outcomes that we receive in life. So if we look at this, for example, there's an I am statement. We probably know this through different affirmations, just say that you are and that's what will be. Well, if we don't actually truly believe it, which is the next chain of event here, then there is no I am statement that can be strong enough for you to actually believe who you are. So here, for example, again, my example is I am a survivor. That's my identity. That's who I am at my core. My belief is that I'm not good enough. So what are we worthy of? What are we enough of? What can we be deserving of? And so typically these are the negative talks that we will have, and we'll touch on that too with our parts inside of our minds. They'll start to talk to us in certain ways, again, fully to protect us, but it can be coming from that identity state because it wants to protect that identity. Then again, what are those mental voices? Like we just said, I cannot do this, I cannot do that because I'm not good enough, right? So now justifying with the belief, the thought comes up as I cannot. And then going into the feelings, the energetic emotions, what does that say? I'm in fear mode. I cannot get up. I cannot move. I might be shut down. I might not want to leave my house. I might start to get depressed. I might even start to get anxious. So depression is from the past, anxiety is in the future. And where do we live? We live in the present moment. So if we're constantly thinking about the future, we're going to create that anxiety state. And if we're constantly living in the past, we're going to start to create a depression state of being. That leads to our behaviors and choices. What kind of actions are we taking? Maybe we're choosing some poor, healthy lifestyle. I love to eat chips. I love to eat cookies and chocolate. So that's there for me to go and depend on because now I feel this fear. I don't know what to do about it. Now I'm going to take this action. And then all to say that comes into a physical experience. Our physical body will hold all of that, all of these events, and it will manifest into something greater. So again, this is something I started to play around with when I started to get all my genetic testings and everything came back negative. How come that's the case? I wanted an answer. I wanted a clarifying answer to say, why is this happening to me? And I realize it's actually happening through me with the fact that I am the creator of whatever I believe to be. So again, this is my story. Again, take it and see what resonates with your story and what's your chain of events that's been happening, whether it's through cancer or beyond that, right? Any questions so far or comments? Just like to take some pause to allow that.
No, none so far.
Okay. All right. So moving on to a Thrivership journey. So here you can see it's a completely different person. I have now become this new sense of self that I knew to my core every day it is possible. However, just didn't know how to get there and didn't know why these events are constantly happening. So once I started to really dive deeper, I said, okay, there is a way that I can rewrite this story. And how is that story going to be be written in my time now. So we live in different timelines in life. So if we think about the past, you're living in one timeline. If you think about the future, you're living in another timeline. If you think about the present, you're living in the present timeline. So we're in constant non-linear timelines, and we can constantly go back and forth. That's the power of subconscious rewiring. And that's the power of somatic and NLP work, that you can really be the narrative of your own timeline in your own life. And it really depends as to the choice you make. So for example, making the choice to be here today is one choice. And that will lead you to the next thing, which we'll talk about next workshop. So thank you again for being here, because that choice is not only important for you, but the people around you that you're influencing as well. So this here, obviously, just the same way illness, we talk about, can be contagious, so can healing. So once you start the healing process, once you start to really dive into what is the deeper meaning of healing, maybe that's going to start to motivate you and inspire you to create your Thrivership journey and see how you land. And maybe that does start to change your weather forecast day by day a little bit. Whatever you choose, it can be contagious. So whether we choose our survivorship journey or our thrivership journey, it really doesn't matter. It's the fact that at the end of the day, what you are going to present out to not only yourself, but to others, it can start to become contagious. So I have seen not only my thrivership journey start to rewrite its narrative, but a lot of people around me, like my mom and my husband and other people. So it can be very much as contagious. So again, if you can see underneath all of this, it's still the same, diagnoses and disorders, or all these labels that kind of have been put, for example, PTSD, or, looking at the borderline personality disorder, my migraines, the non-Hodgkin's, the Hodgkin's. Underneath it, there's a fact that cancer went into survivorship. Healing my migraines was healing the nervous system. Healing certain behavioral disorders was going through coaching or therapy. So again, these are the modalities that worked for me in that sense. And so we look at this chart again, and we look this time through a compassionate lens, through a sense of gratitude, and all to really create the sense of freedom in our own bodies, our minds, and our emotional states of well-being. So this time, illness turns into wellness. This time, disability turns into ability. Maybe disease turns into ease. And it all says a lot based on, again, talking about this chain of events. So again, you can look at your worksheet and get curious as to how is that how are you starting to rewrite your thrivership and survivorship journey? So here, for example, again, we're talking about the beingness. So at the identity core level, I'm now a creator. I can create. I can feel this sense of creation inside of me. My belief is now worthy of this creation. I don't feel like I'm not good enough or I can't do something. And my thoughts start to say, I get to do this. I'm excited to do that. My sense of energetic emotion starts to feel more joyful, even in the sadness. I've felt this many, many times so far, and it's been a very interesting thing to think about. And my mind kind of is boggling on this idea of like, how can I be joyful when I'm mad? How can I be joyful when I'm sad? It's truly possible. Never thought that could be the case, but can we be in a joyous state in every emotion that comes up? And so also our actions, maybe we start to choose now healthy lifestyles, and therefore our doing becomes a wellness, which is really the doing part of well-being. So we become the human being as a well-being to a human doing as the wellness that we start to manifest in our lives. And this chain of events is really just, again, it goes cyclically. So whatever that is, it can come up in different formations, different parts of your life. This can be, again, either in your cancer journey, it can be in your relationships, it can be in your finances. It really is not a one for all. But once you start to look at kind of the wheel of your life in different lenses, you start to see it's actually kind of common in every single one. But you really have to focus on one area so that you can start to, contagiously heal through the others. All right, so I'm going to take a pause. I'm just going to reflect. If you'd like to share in the chat, feel free to. If you just want a moment to either fill out your worksheet just partially or even just maybe journal about this. What's your survivorship journey towards healing been like so far? And what's your current thrivership journey towards healing? And just a side note, the quote on the bottom, something I came to many, many years after. I wonder how I would take it if I heard this in the beginning of my survivorship journey, but healing is not a destination, it's a journey of life. We're not going towards anywhere besides where we are today. And so healing is that journey that we get to experience and live through. And maybe when we do get that challenging time, that is kind of a call to see what's going on inside, what's happening to us externally, internally, and take a moment to reflect on that. I'll give you about a few minutes if you want to just keep your camera on or off, whatever feels good to you. And then we'll do a little bit of a drop-in before we go in. Awesome. So again, touching on the fact that we have different transitional moments in time. And so when we kind of zoom into Cancer, there's these 3 different really big points that we see in the medical field where they talk about whether it's your diagnosis, it's remission, or survivor. And so diagnosis, I refer this as that pain in the cycle. So we start to look at the pain and we start to possibly put a name on it, which then helps us be able to know what kind of treatments we need. And remission is about the recovery state. So it doesn't mean that you're completely, free of whatever has been happening and whatever treatment you've been taking, but it just means that you're in monitoring states. And so this is another transitional moment. So again, from a normal sense, which I haven't really put this on the slides because there is no normal, right? Whatever was happening before, maybe your diagnosis, that's one transition moment into the diagnosis. So those arrows, again, looking at them, it's a transition into remission is another moment where thrivership could possibly live. And then, of course, our remission to survivorship is a huge transition. Now you're kind of going into a place where you might see your doctor less, you might be taking less medications, but now you have to figure out what, life's going to be after this. How am I going to fit back into the world? Is anything that I left going to be the same again? So these are transitional moments and times where in these transitions, we can start to decide and choose with that freedom of choice that we have within our own selves to create a thrivership journey and essentially thrive in life. And so thinking of like you're in a forest, either the different trails to that thrivership. And so now we're looking at it through a holistic lens. So when we look at it from a holistic lens, it really is, I talk about embodiment. Embodiment really means, can I fully feel through the mind? Can I fully see through the mind? Can I fully feel and see through the body? And can I fully feel and see through the sense of myself, whatever that core is, self is beyond the body and beyond the mind? I see your hand is up, Rebecca.
Yeah, I think this was to your previous slide, but there was just 2 comments.
Yeah.
Survivorship thought can feel very convincing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was constantly told, quote, "This is the new normal," quote unquote, which I hated hearing. It wasn't new, but awful.
Yeah. Yeah, and the new normal state, that's something I think I hear almost in every area of life, regardless if it's cancer or medical diagnoses. It's like this new normal of, I don't know, politics, this new normal of time, this new normal of our food or whatever is out there that you care about. It is about actually maybe also turning it around and seeing, am I going to accept this new normal? Or am I going to maybe challenge it? Am I maybe going to stand up to it? Going back to our self-advocacy point of how can I embody my self-advocacy self? How can I embody the internal resources to get to that advocacy and then essentially to a self-empowerment and feeling like I don't need to be controlled or maneuvered in the world a certain way. So you get to create your new normal, hopefully, Caroline. Yeah, and then let me look at the last comment. Was survivorship thoughts can feel very convincing. Yeah, those thoughts are, again, part of that chain of events. So if you see that thought is kind of in the middle, so seeing which direction you might go into and which place to start is kind of the trick here. So typically, in coaching or in somatic works, we would go to the left. So let's look at that together real quick. So here you have your thoughts in the middle. And if you have that thought kind of coming up over and over again, maybe it's time to dig a little deeper into our belief systems. And then maybe a step further would be into our identity. So this is kind of the hierarchy level of our thoughts, whether we go left or right, but typically we go to the right because now we're at this state of thought. Now I'm going to feel, maybe I can change how I feel by maybe taking a piece of chocolate and eating it, and then I'll feel better and everything's going to be fine. I've been into chocolate a lot, so I'll make that as my example. Okay, so just going back to this slide. Yeah, so the mental, physical, and emotional states are what kind of come down to this mind, body, self breakdown of holistic being. So we talk a lot about the wellness world, but I don't hear a lot of people talking about this well-being world. Like how am I supposed to know that, I should do yoga besides people telling me I should do yoga? Or how, I heard this all the time. My doctor saying, like, have you tried out yoga? Do you meditate? And it's kind of like, well, how do I get to that place of that doing, right? The doing, the wellness is the doing part, and we're not human doers, we're human beers. How can I get there if I don't really know what's happening on the neurological side? Why am I maybe making these decisions and choices? Which the chain of events can maybe help you solidify that a little bit more. What about the body? That's a physical sensation. The body actually takes in all five senses, is how we take in the world. So using our five senses of touch, smell, auditory, taste, these are visuals. These are all the way that we experience life from an external to an internal translation. So how we tap into our senses, where we find ourselves listening to, maybe a kind of music that might not serve our nervous system, can very much have something to do with our physical state of being. And that's the somatic work. So soma means the language of the body. So what does the body say? We a lot of times talk about, and we talk in this in this foreign sense of language of the body might be that foreign sense. However, what was actually foreign was the words we came up in this world. We didn't know words, but the body knew how to feel and how to sense and how to be. Way beyond words came into existence. We maybe drew them first, and before that, we, acted it out. So again, the body speaks louder. So me moving my arms right now, my body's speaking. My mind is speaking through my words, and my body's speaking through my actions, what I'm doing with my hands. So in somatic works, that's again what's really the key is, how is your body talking? How is your body speaking? How is it showing up? And a lot of times, again, you can see this in someone that crosses their arms, and maybe that shows you that that body language is that person needs that distance right now, or they might be mad. If they coming, forward, they want to give you a hug. So that's the body's language. And those, I remember those aches and pains, they were speaking to me very loud, but I was not listening. I was listening a lot to my thoughts, and I was going to therapy. I was trying to figure out what's going on in the mental area, but I was completely in dissociation of what's happening in my body, and how is my body sending me signals with these aches or pains or fatigueness, tiredness, whatever that might be. And then there's this emotional, energetic side. That's the sense of self. We might talk about this in an intuitive level. We might talk about this in a sense of gut, like my gut is saying this, right? Like your gut doesn't really say anything. I mean, your gut digests, but at the end of the day, and we can touch a little bit on this, like there's Ayurveda medicine and Ayurveda yoga that talks a lot about the gut is actually the mind. In that sense, the gut is the one that's saying what's good and what's bad. So it could go down to the digestive level because of how we digest our food. But it's almost like whenever we say like, yeah, something just doesn't taste right, or like something is just not right. Like that is yourself. Something is saying to you that beyond the body and beyond the mind. I don't care if the mind can justify this on the neurological level. I don't care if the body can say, but I know that intuitively this is not right. So that's the sense of self. It moves through chemicals in a hormonal basis, on a endocrine level of the medical side. And, in the yoga terms, we talk about the chakras, and we look at the medical symbol, it actually has all the chakras in that medical symbol. And so essentially what chakras in yoga really mean is our energy center and how it communicates up and down our nervous system, which is our spinal cord, that goes all the way into our minds, and our minds will, make the decision, because that's the navigator of our think of it, the iPhone, like it's the navigation system, and the destination might be like that North Star that you're trying to shoot for, and that's your Thrivership journey. So that's going to all lead you down a well-being route, whatever that might be. And well-being can again mean that survivorship annotation or the Thrivership, and or somewhere in between. Okay, so then talking about kind of this holistic sense, how do we bring that all together? What is that entitle? There's these buckets that really have helped me along the journey, and many other people who I've helped as well. That when we are in a purposeful, meaningful growth state, again looking at the body, mind, and self, we can be able to help detect what direction we're going. Like my purpose was, at the end of the day, like being a 3-time survivor, many people will ask me like, well, how did you make it to the other side? Or being someone that couldn't have children, how did you have a child? Like that was all for me deeper inside, always the sentence of, I have a love for life. I love life and I want to experience life. Now, life kept showing me ways of maybe I'm not able to, fully embrace that because it was so damn hard. But I think in the end of the day, this meaning and purpose, I couldn't access it at that point. But later, when I really got down to it, it was that led me through everything else and be able to survive into that, into the next places of my life, which in the first slides, it was like, it takes a lot of strength to survive and it takes courage to live. So the courage to live was what I was kind of trying to dive more into and go deeper and deeper. And how can I create courage to really go out there and live the life that I survived, right? A lot of times we're just stuck in that survival again and trying to make it every day, every night, get back up, do the same thing over and over again. And a lot of times we forget to live. So my purpose was to live. I just forgot about it for a little while. And so therefore my survivorship journey kind of took some time to turn into a Thrivership journey. And so then moving on to, this other bucket next to that is our physical well-being, our mental well-being, and our restoration. So these three are as important as one another. So we talk about movement probably in this day and age a lot. There's a little bit talk about mental fitness, but how much talk is there about restoration? Like to actually rest, to actually let your body and your nervous system go into rest mode so that you can get up and again do the physical and the mental and fitness that you're wanting to move forward, using that to move forward in your life. So that's again to be able to strengthen and your practices for resiliency and healing is needed for all three, as important as each and every one of them over there stated. So then moving forward to how do we nurture ourselves? How we give ourselves self-love? How do we connect to the nature being of who we are, where we came from? We became so separated from nature, not only from a physical sense, but also again from a mental and emotional sense. What kind of grounding exercises do we do and get out into the forest? Maybe we don't have a forest, but can we get into the water? Maybe we don't go into the water. Can we go barefoot on the grass and just really feel that connection? Because towards nature is how we're going to feel that love towards ourselves, and care for ourselves. So the same way you might have a plant anywhere in your house, you'll water it. So do you give yourself nourishment of water enough times? Do you give yourself the right nutrition and soil that you need to grow? And so, yeah, connecting to nature can kind of give you that reminder that is also as important as it is for me. And yes, of course, nourishment and how we kind of take in. So one of my greatest teachers said, it's as important to know how we eat as it is of what we eat. So really the mindfulness eating that we talk about is like that how do we eat? How do we drink? How do we appreciate? And how do we have a sense of gratitude is actually going to help your digestive system in a deeper and more profound level than just, stuffing, like, for example, a banana because it's good for me. I want to appreciate this banana when I eat it. I want to have gratitude for the fact that it grew for me. It grew so that it can nourish me. So how do I nourish myself through that banana that I'm going to maybe digest in this moment? And then, of course, the last bucket is community connection and support. It's as important as every single thing here. We're in community right now, but there's a sense of internal community too. And we'll talk about parts work in IFS a little bit too, which is the internal family system that we have within our own minds. How connected are we within our own community as much as we are connected to the external community? How connected are we to ourselves as much as we are connected to the external selves? And how much support can I give to myself as much as I can give support to others out there? Because a lot of times, especially in this journey, I've met a lot of empaths that give, and then at some point they reach a place of burnout, which essentially has been some kind of manifestation into our health and our well-being as well. That is, again, as important as giving yourself support, connection, and community as it is to give the external world too. And again, on your worksheet, you'll have these buckets to kind of fill out on your own to see where do you see meaning, purpose, and growth in your life. How do you feed into that bucket? How do you feed into the mental fitness, restoration, and physical fitness bucket? How do you feed into the nurturing, nature, and nourishment bucket? And how do you feed into your community connection and support bucket? So you can put a few words or just one, or maybe the bucket stays empty, and that kind of gives you some clarifications as to where you stand in your well-being journey right now towards Thrivership. Take a moment. I don't know if we all know this scale level, like if we've been to a doctor's office, maybe. I was in pediatric care, so I always had to point at a smiley face of some sort to figure out how I feel. And this kind of is just a breakdown as to like where are you right now in your well-being, and scaling it from a holistic lens, again, from the mental, from the physical, and from the sense of self and emotional level. It could be anywhere from the middle, which is kind of this preventative state where we're just, trying to function, maybe we're trying to go towards optimization, but it's like in the functional level. Or maybe it's a little more symptomatic. I feel aches or pains, or I feel down. Maybe that gives you signals as to where you are on your well-being scale. Just take a moment and see if you can just notice what level you're landing right now, both on a mental and physical levels, and then maybe also your energetic, emotional level. Feel free to pop it in the chat if you like to share. Time as well. Again, another sharing opportunity just so that we can have that sense of feeling like we're breaking the ice and we're shedding all this, you know, solidity of our being. Maybe we take a moment before we go into this and just drop in. So feel free to keep your camera on or off. Again, we'll do a little bit of a drop-in meditation, brief, and so that we can really be here when we're answering these questions. So, yeah.
There's just another comment. I can get stuck in the preventative part of the cycle. It can feel endless and it loses meaning and feeling.
Yeah, because you're constantly trying to prevent, and you're in the cycle of prevention, going back to that cyclical pattern of our survivorship journeys. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen just for a moment. I think that makes more sense. Then I can see you all. Okay, so feel free to get comfortable. So if that's laying down, sitting upright, maybe crossing your legs. If you cross your legs, you can still ground through your feet. I'll guide you through them. Just put your legs firmly maybe on the floor if you are sitting upright so that you can have a tall spine. And then maybe the gaze softens onto the front of what you're seeing beyond the screen. It's below, down to your feet maybe a little bit higher. We're going to tap into different layers of our bodies. So as you keep your gaze soft, or maybe you start to close down the eyes, and just come into the sense of how your breath is settling in this moment in time. Maybe it's soft, rhythmic breaths. Maybe they're rapid and they feel like a pulsation. Just noticing and creating space for the curiosity of how the breath is settling in. And so here, maybe becoming curious and asking yourself a question towards the breath. Why do I breathe? How does the breath come up without even me noticing in every moment in time? And what does the breath do for me? As you're aware of this breath, maybe on a deeper level now, start to slowly shift your awareness to your mind, asking the mind a few questions out of curiosity, no judgment. What is the mind thinking right now? What does the mind do when it thinks? Why does the mind think in the first place? As you start to notice these answers come up, just trust what's there and move your awareness and shift it subtly to the body. What is the body feeling right now? Is there any aches or stiffness, tightness? Maybe there's a sense of lightness. How does feeling through the body help me right now? Feel free to move through that sensation in your body if that feels comfortable to do so. Allow it to move past that space that it holds. And so that you can get deeper into one of your deepest layers of bodies at your heart center. So do anything that you need to do, whether it's shake or moving your head side to side, rolling your shoulders back and forth, to create an openness in the chest. So again, lengthening through the spine, maybe your gaze is still shut and you keep your spine lengthened through the crown of your head all the way to the roots of your feet. And in this foundation, move into the heart space, into the chest, and start to tune into your heartbeat. See if you can notice your heart beating. Maybe you hear a subtle pulse or feel it somewhere else in your body, and that's okay. Again, creating a space of curiosity, asking the heart why it beats. What makes the heart beat in every moment of every day? What does the heart feel? Is there an emotion that maybe shows up? And just notice that emotion. And here I want you to take a deep breath through your nose in your inhalation, holding it at the top, seeing if you hear or sense that heartbeat any differently than before. Maybe a subtle shift, holding your breath still at the top, and then slowly letting out the breath through your mouth as if you're blowing out a candle. On your next inhale, fill out the belly, fill out the chest, moving into the heart center, noticing whatever you notice, and then releasing through a slow and steady candle breath out through the mouth. One more time on your own pace. And one last time before we move on, see if you've noticed any subtle shifts through your breath body, that life, power, force, energy that moves in and out, up and down, side to side, through life with you. See if you've seen any shifts, subtle or big, in your mind body, in your intellect, mental state. Moving into the body, physical body, any physical sensations that might have shifted for you or stayed the same. And then moving into your heart center, noticing if anything has shifted in that space. And at your own pace and your own time, taking all the time that you need, start to orient yourself back into the room. So before your eyes hit the screen, maybe noticing something around your room that has potentially a sentimental value or creates a resourceful state for jumping on to the rest of this call. Beautiful. Thank you, everyone, for doing that 4-part check-in. I hope you were able to receive something from that small little check-in with all your parts of bodies. Again, we have many, many layers. These were just maybe the 4 that I had mentioned earlier, so I wanted to check in there before we move on into some more reflection questions. We're gonna just go through these and have them kind of be more like journal prompts. So feel free to take them with you as they're not on the worksheet. I am going to share my screen again, so I hope you guys can see it.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So an open share after that drop-in. 3 words to describe your well-being right now. Again, words, not sentences. Two things that you do for your well-being. Maybe reflecting back on those 4 buckets that we talked about. Where do each of those 2 things maybe lie? And then last but not least, the intention that you have for your well-being as you move through your week. One thing I just want to mention, an intention can be so subtle. And the word grace keeps coming up for me throughout the time of my motherhood journey, is that to have grace for myself, and that means I will have grace for my well-being. So I just wanted to invite that piece of share. Maybe you want to borrow it. I think grace is something that we tend to neglect and put to the side in life, especially in this really rapid lifetime. Moving on, again, if you don't have time to finish those reflection questions, please take them with you. So every day, maybe ask yourself, what are those 3 words that I can describe as my well-being in that time? What are 2 things I'm doing for my well-being? And what's an intention that I have for my well-being? Again, emphasis on the being, not the doing. And then maybe that'll lead you to the doing part. So this specific workshop has really been about recognizing like our painful states. Our painful states are communication from the mind. So again, our mind speaks a lot louder than our bodies. That's a typical way that our evolutionary states have came to flourishment. So our state of mind body really means kind of the connection from up to down, so top down approach. What is happening from the neurological mental state? How is it influencing my bodily state? Is how we can determine, those pain points or trigger points. So recognition is the main topic. And if you're curious about the next workshops, the other 2 are listed below. So we'll talk about releasing through the power of the body-mind, more into somatic, where it's a little bit more depth into how we experience today's check-in with our body-mind. And then the 3rd workshop will be about really being able to, now that we've released that kind of sense of pain and turned it into a powerful state, how can we replace it with a purpose for our sense of self? So talking about recognition. This term of inner child, it's became a very big term that is on the mainstream media. Perhaps you are looking into certain self-growth development posts or out there really hungry for what's out to in that in the embodiment of self-growth and self-improvement. Inner child has become a very big talk. What inner child truly means is all the different selves that you've grown up with. So inner child doesn't really mean only, the first memory, which could be at 4 or 5 years old. It's beyond that. So from the ages of 1 to 7, we create a state of who we are, an identity. We take in all the downloaded information that we've been doing throughout our point of birth to the point that we are 7 years old. It's around the ballpark that they say. Sometimes it goes up to 9, depending on kind of your household and the way you were raised. But all that to say is that we have different times in our lives that we can maybe go back to, and that is one of our inner child, but not the only inner child. So something that could help is to just invite a curiosity as to, well, what's your inner child like? Maybe which one pops up first for you? The one that maybe pops up for you is one that is one of your first memories. The one that kind of could be maybe more hard or traumatizing to look at. Maybe it's also one that's a very joyous and playful side of you, the one that, brings you a sense of life. It can differ for every single person. And so just becoming curious as to what inner child that you hold inside of you can start to create relationship with these different selves that you've kind of grown up with, and maybe put it aside because life just happened and I needed to move on from that. But coming into contact with your inner child is kind of the first point of contact in recognizing where we are in our survivorship journey and where we want to head in our thrivership journey. So the sense of remembering can come all the way from womb space, even conceivement. It can either come from generational to past time. So it can be passed from, generations before you, your parents, your grandparents, what they held inside them. It all lives inside your biological level of DNA. And we're kind of carrying that into more and more sense of, looking from the cellular level of how we see ourselves in our inner child versions, but also how do we see ourselves through a generational sense too. So kind of opening the lenses of how someone else's inner child might be showing up the next time maybe someone does you wrong. How does that inner child maybe show up based on the action that they took? What's their identity level? What stories do they carry through their childhood experiences? I'll make an example. For example, my father, I had many narratives about how he might have shown up or not shown up in my lifetime. So now I've created a sense of curiosity of his inner child and how I can look into how maybe his childhood influenced him to then make certain actions towards me or my family, and therefore create a cyclical pattern of that sense. And again, it's my choice to want to either break it or keep it, right? So becoming just curious with our inner child and others' inner childs can really help us with the first point of recognition in this journey. And so a practice could definitely just be writing a letter to your child self. Simple as that. If you like to write, maybe you do an inner child meditation. We did last week a somatics yoga in inner child work. So joining one of the somatics yoga classes will help you move through one of these techniques. So if you're more curious about that, be sure to check that out too. The next point that we want to recognize is our inner voices. Lives here. So most of the time we're talking, but who are we talking to? Do we really know who those voices are? Do we know which parts are talking? Is it the whole person? Or is it maybe just one little tiny voice that's talking and has more of the microphone at that moment? So this is what I had mentioned earlier about internal family system, IFS, that's kind of recreating a sense of awareness that we are not what we think. there is this false annotation in our minds that everything that we think we believe, but not all your thoughts are true. I think there's a book about that. So which parts, and getting curious as to what those parts are doing for you. So in the work that I do, and also in the work of somatic parts work, neurolinguistic programming parts work, in IFS, all of it, it's really just getting curious about what do your parts need from you? Because they're protecting you. They're doing something because at some point in that age, from 1 to 7 years old, someone was not there to attend to you. So that's really what trauma is. Trauma comes from a sense of not being supported or held to move through an experience. And so you can hold trauma in one way, I can hold trauma in a completely different way. The same events could have happened to me and you at the same time, but yet one person held it in their body in one way, the other person held it in their body a completely different way. And so those parts start to show up in those narration of what had happened, but not to us, but through our bodies, what happened in that state of emotion. So maybe we get aroused every single time someone, might raise their voices, or we might get a little bit startled because we possibly did the wrong thing, right? We were told that that was wrong. So every time we do something possibly wrong, our parts start to show up and speak to us and tell us, wait a minute, don't do that. You're not gonna da, da, da. And it's all this narration that goes on and on and on. So just getting curious to what part's speaking and what does that part need from me right now. 2 simple questions that you can do to start to tap into your internal parts. And we'll do parts work tomorrow in the somatics yoga. So if you're curious, I think there's a few more spots left. Another easy way to kind of bring this into a daily activity is what I call a dirty laundry list. What are your thoughts thinking of? So each part, what are your parts thinking of? So each part will have certain thoughts. So maybe 3 to 5 repetitive thoughts when you identify a part of you. So for example, I have a overwhelmed part. So right now today I woke up and I'm like, well, one part of me is overwhelmed and the other part wants to completely just sleep in and avoid the world. So getting curious, whichever part I choose to get curious with my overwhelmed part. I made a dirty laundry of what are the thoughts that my overwhelmed part is thinking of right now. You're not going to make crazy shifts in that moment, but at least you're getting curious to recognize where it's coming from. The empowerment is really the recognition in that sense. And you choose to do that. Now, moving on to the inner clarity. So again, recognition requires clarity. So a lot of the times we're trying to connect dots, and all of these possible spiraling thoughts that are happening maybe start to thin out into a little bit of a linear formation. So now that we maybe became curious about our parts, maybe now we're going to get curious how we can create a more clear sense of mind, of body, and of self, of course. But again, we're really doing this from a top-down approach. So our mind will be the first one we'll address. And because again, we are in a state of more mental, neurological intelligence level. AI has proven that, of course, for us. So when we look at it, how can I get more clear about my needs? How can I get more clear about what are my to-dos? So what do I need to do can be different than what do I want to do. And we'll get to the wants, we'll get to the desire, dreams, and states in the later workshops. But right now, maybe you have certain needs that you have to do. And so you get those dots connected first, and you kind of make your prioritization list. And so we talked about like kind of why do we breathe? Why does the heart beat? That's getting a sense of clarity. Have we ever asked these questions before? Or have we just kind of gone on through our days and saying, well, my heart beats and I breathe. My lungs just gotta pump those breath in and out, oxygen and the carbon dioxide out, because that's how life works. But maybe getting curious about more as to why does your heart beat and why does your lungs breathe in the way that it breathes. And so what is true for you might be not true for someone else, but again, your needs and making a to-do list for yourself, kind of as to, okay, these are all my my necessities, and how can I address them so that I can then move on to the next state of recognition. So yeah, any questions so far? I don't think I saw anything come in. And so the last part about recognition is really the inner identity. So now we've kind of like through, you know, peeling an onion, right? We're trying to get to a place where we saw on our chain of events, this state of identity. Who are you at your core? Who are you being? So we have a to-do list. And to do these things, who are we being in comparison to our doing? Who do we need to be to get the dishes done? For example, I need to be someone that feels motivated to get dishes done. Well, how does that person that is motivated show up? So looking at your chain of events, how can you help yourself to get to the dishes, or go to work, or possibly go to your, doctor's appointment? I know a lot of times I was sitting there and I was like, well, I don't want to go to my doctor's appointment. So I wanted to knock that out, but I knew that's what I needed. And so it would have helped if I could change maybe who I need to be to get myself to the appointment, right? I was someone that was completely down, didn't want to, I was in disbelief. I kind of had this like state of denial or survival state. So I just kept making that the narrative. And so obviously that person does not want to go to the doctor's appointment, but maybe someone who is health conscious wants to go to the doctor appointment and wants to show up in that sense to get that thing off their list that they made earlier. So again, noticing who you are. So these I am statements are very true and powerful. So if you say whatever the word is after I am, that is your core identity. So we always say, be careful what comes after that I am statement. So if I am tired, you will be tired. If I am not good enough, I will be not good enough. And what's your I am statement, and how can you create a new sense of being through a new I am statement? So again, what I like to do is always make my to-do list, and then on the side I make my to-be list for that to-do list. Who do I need to be to do these things? And so we're getting towards the end. I'll leave a couple minutes for questions. Hopefully we have time. Just looking at this at a scale level, hierarchy level, we, many of us kind of know this like hierarchy of like, we have our physical needs, we have, the safety, love, and support, and then there's a self-actualization on the top. This goes very much the same with well-being and wellness. So again, we need to know who we are so that we can create a wellness state of doing. So if I want to go to that yoga class because it's good for me, I need to become someone that goes to a yoga class because I know that it's good for me. This is somewhere where a lot of people can start getting stuck, because on the left-hand side, we're constantly just wanting to do, but we're standing on a very flimsy triangle, as you can say, and kind of carrying all this like identity level up here. So whoever we were, we're carrying that, and we're trying to become this person who goes to yoga. If we flip it around, and start to get curious and do these steps on a daily basis, maybe we will become that person that goes to yoga, and it becomes effortless, which essentially is what will happen in your chain of events once you start to repeat this over and over again, is to keep seeing yourself as an identity level, as a being level, rather than a doing. And so one of the last things I wanted to mention is that when you rewrite your narrative, you can rewrite your destiny. So changing the way that you view kind of what's happening to you, rather than seeing it through a lens of how is this happening through me? What is it kind of showing me? What do I need to get done? Or what do I need to attend to? How do I need to pay more attention to my health or well-being? welcomes this more lightness, this feather formation. So again, on the left is my word bubble of all the things I was carrying my whole entire life. So obviously that's going to be really heavy to carry with me, going back to this, flimsy triangle that I'm trying to stand on. This on the left was everything that I identified myself as. So then I became someone that just wanted to identify as a well-being person. So flowing through life in a healing formation really does make that a possibility. And so again, we go back to the last reflective questions, what we kind of reviewed in the beginning. What's your survivorship journey towards healing been like? Maybe you want to reflect again and check in with yourself. And what's your current thrivership journey towards healing like? Thank you everyone for having me. It was a pleasure to be here. I am very moved by this community because I once was a participant on the other side. So this has been something really profound and moving in my own life as I see myself on the other side. So that's kind of the switch into the thrivership journey, and just want to give a glimpse of that. So I really appreciate everyone for giving me the space to be not only a facilitator, but also a student in this sense. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ghazal. So as you were talking, there was, when you talked about like, I am, tired, then you'll be tired, So one of the comments was, I am hopeful.
Yeah.
If anyone has any questions or comments, please feel free to share in the chat. So thank you again, Ghazal, for your time and sharing this important information and changing our mindset. Yeah, it's absolutely wonderful. So yes, the comments are thank you. This is a lot to think about. Very encouraging and deep things, but it's powerful and loving workshop. Yes, thank you again.